This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. Yeet! Another episode of No Other Pod, the first MLS Victory Pod we've had since March.
Wow.
I'm Jimmy, and along with my good buddy, Dan. Dan, what's going on?
Since March, dog, it is June for anyone keeping score here. Good grief. Feels good, man. Life is good. Not much new in my world. I did not get to watch this game live. I watched the first half Saturday night and then watched the second half Sunday morning. So I'm up to date. I didn't just catch the highlights because when you win, you get more from me than just a highlight watch. I want to watch the story being told. I want to watch Johnny Russell getting in people's faces. I want to watch red cards. I want all that shit. I want to see Slim Shady Stephen Fry getting scored on. It's a hell of a time.
His hair was wild to me because I saw it and I was like, is that Stephen Fry? Like from distance. I was like, did they get a new goalkeeper? And I looked and I was like, no, that's Stephen Fry. And I was like, what? He got inspired by Eminem's new song? What is happening here?
Well, the young people might have to explain this to me. Is bleach blonde hair back in? Like, is there and the beard being different color? It's weird, right?
It seems like it's coming back. I mean, there's so much from like the 90s / early 2000s that's coming back. I mean, we got a lot of baggy pants that are coming back again in the same way, and different hairstyles and such. I mean, in the sports style world, like sort of 90s retro stuff has been cool for a little bit now, like the old NBA jerseys, or like starter jackets and such. But I think it's bleeding its way into other fashion.
And it used to be about like wearing like form-fitting slacks or khakis and jeans, slim fit. And now it's kind of like, nah, man, baggy pants are fine. And I'm like, what did I miss? When did this happen?
Do you remember back in like the early 2000s when I think it was like I forget, it was a 2001, or probably like 2002, 2003 draft class in the NBA. It was the LeBron, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, all them. The draft picture of them, they are wearing suits that are 7 sizes too big for them. Like it is
okay.
Yeah, it is so Nick and I just said 7 sizes.
Y'all are hilarious. Nick just typed the same exact thing you just said. Same number, 7 sizes. Y'all are wild.
It's like the style back then was just insanity, and even the shorts back then, it was like you got to wear shorts that at least go like 4 inches below your knees, because otherwise, and then
can't be showing them knees off, you hussy.
No, and then it switched to like, as of late, it was more like super tight, skinny fashion with the short shorts, and it's funny how things are cyclical. So
I know, now we're covering knees again. I'm like, I worked so hard to have good looking knees, and now we got to cover them up.
Finally started getting comfortable with like a 5-inch inseam, and now people are like, nope, not anymore.
I know, whatever. Dude, it's interesting, man. Isn't it wild how we get so much fashion sense and transitions through sports?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big fashion show these days of pictures of players walking to the locker room, like arriving at the arena or the stadium, and it's like this is our fashion show. How wild is that?
It is funny. I mean, speaking of fashion, it is kind of funny because I was at a concert in the midweek. Noah Khan, he's a big, musician. He's popular, gotten real popular over the last couple of years thanks to TikTok. But I've known her for a while. So it was out at Azura Amphitheater in Bonner Springs. I'd never been there. It's kind of a cool venue. But he comes out. He played forever. Played like a 2-hour set. But when he came out for his encore, he and the entire band were all wearing Sporting KC shirts, which was kind of he had the Argyle shirt on, and his whole band had the hoops on behind him. But it was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's a good nod.
Is it cool though? Bad time to be doing that. You're like, okay, so you guys about to lose this next set you're about to play?
Well, then I found out that apparently this is a thing he does. He just either must be a soccer fan or what, because he played in St. Louis the night before, and he came out for the encore, and he was wearing St. Louis City shirts and whatnot. So
you got to pander.
He must just go. But I mean, like, it's not often you pander to like MLS fans. Like, you're a major musician who's like one of the hottest music artists in the entire country right now, and you're like, who I'm going to pander to? Major League Soccer fans.
Yeah. It's kind of reminds me of something else that's in the news, man. I think Bryce Harper that had a shot where they were playing in London. MLB's over there, and he did like a knee slide to to celebrate like a soccer player. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's funny. Sports are wild. Sports definitely influences the culture. That's for sure.
Dude, and I see you got your Royals hat on right now, which has been an amazing weekend of Royals baseball. Not to mention their chances of winning the other night were like 0.1% because they were down by 8, and then they won the shit.
Yeah.
And also, it cannot go without mentioning that the entire city of Kansas City played the entire city of Seattle this weekend, from the women's team and men's and soccer and the Royals. That's so cool.
It's why I think they just, all hopped on a plane from SeaTac Airport together, and they're like, let's just go to Kansas City. We'll take our whooping and leave.
That doesn't really happen though, right? Like that's
weird.
In 3 different teams, same city. That's weird.
It's pretty wild, but you're right. Royals boys are playing some ball, so it's been a good season. So
it's been a while since it's been exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. Let's talk. Before we get into this game, and we will talk about this game because it's been a minute since we've had some new stuff to talk about and to talk about a game. But the big question that has sort of lingered around this Sporting Kansas City club, not just this year, but over the last 2 or 3 years, I would say, is when are things going to turn around? When are things going to get better? How safe is Peter Vermes' job? And over the course of this season, as there has been arguably the worst 10-game stretch in Peter Vermes' tenure, as they went 0-8-2 in the previous 10 games before the Seattle game, that heat really started turning up in a similar way that it was turning up last year. And about this time last year, a little earlier in the season, but around this time, Stan McDowell of the Kansas City Star sat down with Mike Illig, one of the owners of Sporting Kansas City, and basically wrote an article that was like, we've talked about Peter's job, but we're not going to fire him. We believe in him. We think he's the right person to turn this around, blah, 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 blah. And then, as we all know, Sporting did go on a run, and they ended up, 1 game away from, being in the Western Conference Final. Fast forward a year, Sam McDowell, writer for the Kansas City Star, sits down with Mike Illig, owner of Sporting Kansas City. Deja vu, we're doing it all again, and he's having almost an identical conversation, saying, what is the job status of Peter Vermes? When is enough? This is pretty crazy. And what we learned from this pretty immediately, right off the bat, is that no, Sporting Kansas City is not considering firing Peter Vermes. And as Sam put it in this article, quote, it does not appear as though the club is particularly close to making that move. He did go, it's a long article. He talks about a lot of stuff. One of the points Illig mentions is that 3/4 of the roster is either out of contract or carrying a team option this offseason, and that the club is preparing to take advantage of a roster overhaul. And he said, quote, Peter's accountable for all results at the end of the day, and he knows it and he wears it. But if I'm rebuilding, Peter's good at rebuilding. I still have a tremendous amount of confidence in Peter's ability to be who we need him to be. So the main point of this, and again, keep in mind, this came out, before the Seattle game, and not that one win, heals everything. But I think this was, I would guess, maybe for a lot of Sporting fans, probably a little bit disheartening, because they thought that maybe we're getting near a time where some change is happening. And this is the owner, who people have wanted to hear from the owners, saying, no, we might change the roster, but that's about it.
Dude, the only way to say this is that, for lack of a better word, Peter Vermes has tenure. And if you don't know what tenure is, look it up. But it basically means you're unfireable unless you really do something horrible, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of teachers get tenure, right? The teachers will be there for the rest of their lives and have long professor careers. But so I think it's time we shut the hell up. I think, the Illigs want to say that. They want to say, like, okay, keep bitching about it, but he's not going anywhere. So we are forced to, scream into a void? Go on social media and just yell about it when it doesn't really matter, because we've just been told it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
He even mentioned socials, talking about it. It's like, oh, you're on socials? Because I'm sure there's not good things being said about you, bro.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he said he knows what the conversation on social media is, etc., but they're not going to let that dictate.
He got burners.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is interesting. They did mention, while Sporting is sticking by Vermes as manager, the club remains committed to stripping away other titles, most notably whichever one technically places him in charge of player personnel, which that's all well and good. And Sam specifically asked him, okay, well, nothing's happened since you hired and then fired Gavin Wilkinson a week later. And Illig said, it is an absolute need and it is going to be filled. And then there was the added context of the ongoing search should focus on somebody who can fully remove the personal job from Peter's plate rather than just a part of it. But I think what's interesting and what so many people want to know is, okay, well, we've seen other teams make GM hires. We've seen quality GMs or assistant GMs who might be willing to take that next step, leave teams. I mean, Columbus's front office, they had an assistant GM just leave recently. So why is it taking, at this point, it's going on almost 6 months of this search? There were 14 people that were referred to by the search firm before. What about those 14? What's going on? And I don't think this article gave much illumination on that status other than, we want somebody.
I don't know if there are 14 other people. Come on.
That's what the reporting was the search firm referred 14 people. Now, but the Athletic also reported that Gavin Wilkinson was not one of those 14 people.
Right. So, fabrication, dude. It's like reality television. How much do you think is real? Right? It's pretty scripted.
Yeah, well, I had somebody in my mentions last night telling me he thought all of MLS was scripted because he decided to put on a Johnny Russell goal because Johnny Russell was in the promotional tweets. And he was like, see, they're in the promotional tweets, they're going to score a goal. I was like, okay, this dude would stop talking to me.
That's so he did bet on Johnny scoring a goal?
He did, and Johnny scored a goal. And he was like, see, it's scripted. And I was like,
how much money did that pay him?
I don't know. He didn't say that.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I had to mute him because this dude just started blowing up my Twitter account because he called me an idiot for not believing MLS was scripted.
Okay. See, when you start name calling, it's time to mute. It's like, I got no time for you. You're being ridiculous.
Yeah. But I think the biggest takeaway I have is Peter's not going anywhere, which, he's got a contract through 2028. So it would take a lot. That's this season plus 4 more.
So what are we doing?
And then Illig did talk about how there needs to be a change in philosophy of transferring players. He said historically Peter's always done more with less. We've gotten players on free transfers or taken reclamation projects. When there's a need to spend, we're not afraid to spend. This moment seems to warrant that spending, given there's been some latency in participating in the last 3 transfer windows. So, and he specifically calls out the next 3 transfer windows. That would be this summer, the winter transfer window after the season ends, and then next summer in the 2025 season. And they are specifically targeting, right now at least, they said a winger and central defender, which is interesting because I don't know that central defender would have necessarily been atop my list. I still would have thought number 10 would be, but it is what it is. So I don't know. There was some illuminating things. I think it was a look into the mind of ownership. I don't know that Sporting fans would call it the most reassuring look into the mind of ownership, but at least we now know where they stand.
Interesting that they decided to, finally put something out there. I'm sure they were trying to, right? Because they hear all the vitriol being thrown their way. They're like, okay, let's set up something with Sam McDowell and get something out there. But it does kind of suck that they are kind of expecting us to wait 3 transfer windows to turn shit around. So why should we care now?
Well, and that is I think that's the thing, that if there's a miscalculation here, from my perspective of how ownership has handled this, is setting that expectation of, well, wait, give us 3 transfer windows and then we'll see. And if you're going to do that, that should have happened a year ago. And you should have been willing to make that change and that investment a year ago. Waiting what essentially has been arguably one of the worst 3-year stretches in terms of performance in Sporting KC history, but certainly, the modern MLS era, to go through those 3 years and then say, hey, starting from now, give us at least another year and a half is a big ask of fans. That's basically saying, live with a 5-year period of potential mediocrity. And that's not what this club's used to.
I mean, if we bring someone in that transfer window this summer, which there's rumblings, there's rumblings. I feel I'll gasm, bro. I'll geek the hell out. I'll be really excited.
Well, let's take our break here real quick. When we come back from our break, we'll maybe touch on what some of these rumblings are. But we'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
What is up? It's Tucker Franklin here to tell you about our friends at PXG. And as a golfer for years, I've been hearing PXG say nobody makes golf clubs like we do, period. And you know what? I got to say that they are right. I went in for a fitting and I got to see firsthand for myself. I went and swung the new PXG Black Ops driver, and it is a total game changer. You no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness. That is absolutely huge. And no matter how good the tool is, getting fitted can take your game to a whole new level. And look, they'll even give you a dozen of golf balls for free just for going and doing it. It's the world-class team of PXG experts will analyze every aspect of your swing with every club and give you feedback in real time how to improve. I went in there, got set up with Alex. She looked at my swing, fixed a couple swing things, but ultimately using the technology of the PXG and the Black Ops driver helped exponentially increase my game, added 50 yards to my drive, added more consistency with my shots, less disparity. It was an absolutely huge game-changing experience. If you're thinking PXG's high-performance equipment is too expensive, their clubs often cost less than the so-called leading brands. Here's what you got to do. PXG made me a believer, and they'll do the same thing for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/KCSN Soccer to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club and you'll get a dozen golf balls for free. That's pxg.com/KCSN Soccer to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/KCSN Soccer. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions may apply. See store for details.
Buddy, I got to tell you, it is we mentioned the weekend of Seattle here in town. And so I appreciate you recording this early on a Sunday morning because we got KC Current to watch at 5 o'clock today.
There's games on games on games.
It's insane, man. Wouldn't it be great to just have a weekend sweep of Seattle, right?
This month, well, June and July, really both, but June in particular, there is so much soccer happening in Kansas City because we got 2 teams playing at home this week. There's the Olympic team playing at Children's Mercy Park on Tuesday. We got Pride Night on Friday night at CPKC for the Current again. I mean, there's some weeks where it's like 3-4 games a week at times over the next month and a half.
Yeah. Did you? I'm sure you saw weeks ago, and I think Daniel Sperry shared some document about every soccer KC adjacent game happening, and a lot of them are here. Yeah. Especially when Leagues Cup is going to kick off soon. Then we'll get back into Open Cup coming up. There is no shortage of games, and I always want to go to everything, right? And you just can't. You just can't make it to everything.
Can't go to everything. I mean, I'm having to pick and choose. You know, there are some that I'm just simply not going to be able to go to, and it sucks because I want to be at all of them. But yeah, sometimes life gets in the way. But you know, do the best we can to make them.
Do you get to go to KC Current today?
I can't make it to the Current today, unfortunately. I will be there Friday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, today I had a scheduling conflict. I'm going to try to watch it from afar, but I can't be there today, unfortunately, which is a bummer because I'd love to see them, beat the Seattle Reign.
Yes, so. For sure. We're about to recap this game right now, but I do want to mention our buddy Chip is an analytical nightmare. And by nightmare, I mean it in a good way. The man likes numbers. He's all in. So I'm going to start a new segment. I'm thinking it's got to be Chipalytics, or it's got to be like Chip off the old block or Chip's corner or something, you know. But I got some stuff here to read to you at some point. I'll just kind of interject, and there's some pretty fun numbers he came up with. He just keeps like this running spreadsheet, man, and I'm like, dude, I never hate you sending stuff my way. Like I'm never going to contribute because I don't get into it that much, but I do love to read it.
I love this where it's like, do you watch College Game Day? Like before college football, they got their people, and then they got the bear who's off on the side, and he does like the more analytic stuff, the betting stuff or whatnot. So I like Chip being our bear, who like we go to him when we need some advanced stats to come in.
Hey, I don't hate it.
He's not on Game Day anymore, but
he said I could send this stuff to you all the time if you want, and I said, yeah, we've been recording on Sundays, so. And he sent it over this morning, and I go, bro, I'm recording in 5 minutes. You just made it.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I can't wait. I will say before we jump into the game, we did a little tease, and I'm sure you people have seen it, but there are rumors about a potential transfer addition regarding Sporting Kansas City and a high-profile player. Now, these rumors have been around for a while in some capacity simply because this player is a huge fan of the Kansas City Chiefs and none other than Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, Patrick and Brittany were at the game last night. But the player is none other than one Antoine Griezmann. And
is there anything to this? Is there any gas to it?
So that's the interesting thing. Taylor Twellman, the reason that this is even given the legitimacy that it's being given right now is because Taylor Twellman said it. And, Taylor Twellman, he's a TV personality. It's, he knows where his bread is buttered. He wants to say things to get the social engagement and whatnot.
Oh, but, sure. Yeah. He's a gamesman.
As Mike Kuhn pointed out and others have pointed out, Twellman was the first one to break the Eric, Tommy, and Willie Agata sightings when those happened a couple years ago. So it's not as if Taylor Twellman isn't plugged in some ways. Now, when I was initially tipped off about what Twellman was saying, it was positioned to me a little bit more of Twellman says Sporting KC's in the fight for Antoine Griezmann. Then I saw the clip that was released, and it wasn't so much that, not how he said it at least, it was more of, wouldn't it be crazy if Sporting KC signed Antoine Griezmann? And it kind of left it at that. So,
and people just took that and ran with it?
I'm not sure that it's so much a specific transfer rumor as much as it is this has been a name that's been linked to Kansas City for a period of time. And if Peter needs to save his job, which now we know his job is not in danger, but if ownership wants to make a splash and really spend some money and send a message, then that's a signing that could do that. You could argue whether he's tactically the best fit or not at this point, but that name would move the needle.
I mean, yeah, it would be exciting for sure. It would be a weird time, but so we're just going off of him saying like, wouldn't that be crazy? And it's like that could just be random. Okay, I'm not taking much stock into it then.
Yeah, it would be nuts. I mean, he's a World Cup final man of the match winner.
Sure,
but he's also a little old. And do you need Griezmann and a $4 million a year Alan Polito? I mean, they basically would serve the same purpose. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, true.
We'll see. I'm not saying I wouldn't take Antoine Griezmann, but
yeah,
but I'm not counting my chickens before they roost at this point. So we'll leave it at that.
Agreed.
This Seattle game, to set the stage, last year, 10 games, winless, going into a game against Seattle. Granted, that one was on the road in Lumen Field. I went on the Sounder at Heart podcast before then, and it was all doom and gloom and said we're probably not going to win, and then we turned around and won. This year, 10 games, winless, facing Seattle. I went on the same Sounder at Heart podcast again and was pretty doom and gloom and said we're probably not going to win. So I think we maybe just need to make this an annual tradition.
Man.
Seattle.
Or yeah, if you just want to start going on everyone's podcast and just trash our own team and say we're no good, maybe that'll work out.
But this was a game that, I mean, to be fair, both of these teams are struggling right now. There's a lot of parallels between these two teams. Proud histories. Fans are not happy with the coaches. Seattle fans have been calling for Brian Schmetzer potentially to lose his job.
That's wild, because didn't they just win CONCACAF in like 2022?
It was a few, 2-3 years ago. I mean, it's been a minute at this point, but
I mean, that's great success. So it hasn't like, it's like you haven't won anything for a long time. Like, and then before that, you won 2 MLS Cups in pretty quick succession.
Yeah. I think I'm not a Seattle fan. And maybe this is why Sam Kovzen made everybody mad when he called them the most unlikable team in the league with his little by the numbers preview, because they're a couple years removed from being arguably the most successful club in the league, and now they're all upset. But my guess is the parallel is not totally dissimilar to that of Sporting Kansas City, where they're used to year in, year out competing for championships. And now it's been 2-3 years and there hasn't been much change to course correct. So,
you know what they're real upset about? No, they have not shut up about Sporting Kansas City being professional wrestling enthusiasts.
I love this so much.
Because it goes back to that game.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the year, but freaking Tim Melia,
5 years ago at this point,
rock bottomed a guy. And what? Y'all don't forget.
Yeah.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
How are we in heads like this? And by the way, we are professional wrestling enthusiasts. Thanks a lot.
It was so funny when I saw it, and I went to quote tweet the tweet that called us professional wrestling enthusiasts, and I in the GIF bar I just searched WWE, and I was like, I'm gonna find something, and then I saw Otis there doing his belly, and I was like, perfect.
Absolutely,
could not be a better WWE GIF for this situation.
I'm constantly searching WWE dance in the GIF bar, and you come up with some like Big E stuff and Otis, and there's good stuff up there.
Yeah, so it is so. I mean, this Seattle simply does not forget anything. We're probably going to hear for the next 6 years about how one time a sporting communications person called them an unlikable team, and they're not going to let that go now for the next 5 or 6 years.
I know. Like, support your team instead of trying to like hold on to what other people are saying. Who gives a shit?
It also is kind of a compliment, because like people hate you because, I mean, it's the same way people hated the Patriots. They hate you because you're good. I mean, if you're not,
it's because they ain't us.
Nobody gives a shit about the New England Revolution, like, because they're not a good team.
Well, they did now, didn't they? Didn't they win last night?
Yeah, they did. But I mean, they're still bad. But
how crazy! Us and New England are not great, and we both get wins last night.
Who'd have thought? Look at us,
best friends.
But I mean, this team is one where I didn't necessarily think that this was the best Seattle team coming in that we've ever seen, but it is still the Sounders, and Sporting and the Sounders gets chippy whenever they play. And I would like to think that you look at these two rosters on paper and you go, okay, this should be a good game. Anything can happen in MLS. I can't say I was confident heading into this game because Sporting had not given us a reason to be confident. And then the only thing that was good was Eric Tommy returned to the lineup. And I feel much better about where this team stands when Eric Tommy is on the field, because if he is not able to play, I just simply don't know where the goals are going to come from.
Dude, when I heard Eric Tommy was upgraded from out to questionable for this game, I was like, okay, I really still don't expect to see him. And then I see him starting. I was like, oh, shit.
And he went a full 90, 97 and change, really.
Questionable players don't go a full 90. Like, that's weird to me. So I'm like, sounds like he's good. He's not questionable.
Yeah, I mean, Peter said that Eric is just insane when it comes to taking care of his body and his recovery and what. I mean, it's that German engineering.
It reminds me of Ludwig Kaiser in WWE. Like, they just seem like fitness machines.
Yeah. Now on the flip side, Gianluca Buzio was in town. We got to talk to him at halftime, and
he was on the radio. He was on the commentary for a little bit.
Was he? That's awesome. Yeah. I asked him. I said, how's the hamstring doing? He goes, well, probably haven't been doing as much recovery over the last few days as I maybe should have been.
Oh my God! Just gonna say that to some random Kansas City reporters.
And he said he's also staying at Jake Davis's apartment, and they're just hanging out. So I was like,
chilling.
You don't have a team hotel or something that you're at? It's just, I just imagine them just causing mayhem in Kansas City.
Oh, they're just playing Fortnite and shit, man. Just hanging out. Little Call of Duty Warzone,
But it was cool to see Buzio back. I mean, he got the game-winning assist in Venezia's promotion-winning game. So
how cool is that now, man? He's going to be playing in Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
Was playing in Serie B. I don't know how you say it.
I don't think that's it, but we'll go with it.
Now he's in top-tier freaking European League, man. Like, up there with the likes of Juventus, dude. Like, that's so fun.
Yeah, he was in Serie A for a hot second when he first went to Venezia, but they pretty immediately got relegated, and now they're back. So,
yeah,
his name is the subject of transfer rumors to other more successful clubs now. So,
exactly. I mean, I should have mentioned that. Of course, they were in Serie A, but it didn't feel like it because they were kind of at the bottom, you know.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this is it was just the atmosphere was better than I thought it would be from the moment we walked into the stadium. There was more people there than I thought. Buzio was in town. You're like, okay, weird thing.
How was the atmosphere when we got scored on in like the 12th minute?
Well, then that happens.
Yeah. Jordan fucking Morris, dude. That man, he's good. He's a good player. Mm-hmm. We say it every year.
It's annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the perfect MLS player. Like, it's just very frustrating. He
works hard too, man.
He works hard. It's also like, I don't know how many people know or remember that, like, Jordan Morris is a diabetic. Like, he's constantly have to managing blood sugar and fitness and all stuff to make sure that, like, he can even have, the energy and the electrolytes and everything to be able to perform at the level he does. So, like,
I've forgotten that.
It's wild that he's able to manage that. There's other professional athletes that are diabetic, but it's just like, it's always so interesting to me that, like, it's not just like what other professional athletes have to do to take care of their body. There's like a whole other like series of things on top of it. And it's impressive to me that he can do it. But this was just a truly bad play all around. Leibold and Davis. So João Paulo sends a pretty good ball through to Jordan Morris. And I think Tim Leibold thought he was playing an offside trap, but he and Davis were not really in line at all.
Well, they were staggered, dude. It looked ugly.
It was not good. The two center backs, Casti and Fonte, had stepped up, 2 or 3 yards in the front. So Morris times his run pretty well. João Paulo sends it through. And then Leibold doesn't really run back, and it kind of bothered me that there was really no effort. He probably couldn't have got there anyway. He shouldn't have played the offside trap in that situation. Ultimately, this is what it comes down to. Run with Morris, but he plays Morris through. It's a wide open one-on-one situation with Melia. Not much Melia can do. And yeah, I kind of thought, okay, 12 minutes in, down 1-0. Here we go again. I was disheartened.
It didn't feel good. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like we'd have a comeback. All said and done, like at the end of this game, I'm glad we won, obviously. But there's still something hanging over it. Like, well, we kind of needed a red card to win the game, but so there's that.
Sure.
But I don't know. There were lulls in this game too, man. There were parts where it was like, am I kind of bored? Like, not really much is happening.
For sure.
Just didn't feel as electric as some games.
I would say the vast majority of the first half in particular.
Yeah.
It was a boring game for the first half.
Yeah.
There were 2 goals in the first half, but other than that, nothing happened.
I had this on my phone backstage. I had a performance last night, and I'm watching the game when I can. So I put it down. I have to go on stage for like 10 minutes. I come back. We're down 1-0. I'm texting you. I'm like, what the hell happened, dude? I was gone for like a minute, and then I had to go back on stage, and then it's 1-1, and I missed the Johnny goal. Mm-hmm. And then later on in the game, I'm on stage, and I come back, and a red card has happened. I'm like, I am missing everything.
Keep going on stage, and then something will happen.
But then I came off stage, and I saw that there was a celebration taking place, and I was like, well, we did score. I'm about to catch this replay right now.
Yeah, it was fun. But 12 minutes in, down 1-0, not great, and that was sort of like. That was an important moment in the match because how many times have we seen Sporting go down early, whether at home or on the road, and just the energy of not just the stadium but the entire team is immediately sucked away, and the heads go down, and they lose all fight, and that's that. And for whatever reason tonight, and yeah, did it take a little luck? Sure, it took a little luck, but 6 minutes later, Johnny Russell gets a ball at the top of the box and just decides, first time, I'm going to take it off my left foot. Should Stefan Fry probably have saved this? Yeah, I think he sees it a little late, and maybe it's blocked by some defenders, but Johnny fires one from distance, and it had just enough power that Marshall Mathers Fry can only get a hand to it, and it gets pushed into the back of the net, and it's now suddenly 1-1 in the 19th minute, and Sporting are right back in it.
Take away Vargas's close range goal at the end. Like I'm convinced we only score bangers now. And by bangers, I mean outside the box. Don't we have the most outside the box goals in MLS?
I believe so. And when I first looked at the XG for Johnny's shot on FotMob, initially they had it at 0.03, and then after the game it had been downgraded to 0.01 XG from that shot. So
it's crazy because Seattle assisted him on this.
Yes.
It was a poor clearance, very poor.
It was a very poor clearance. It looked like Sporting KC defensively. But an XG of 0.01 means that, based on the modeling and the average shot from that position on the field at that time, etc., that goal scores 1 out of 100 times. And Johnny found a way to do it. When you, and this is not the first, there's been Johnny a couple times, Jake, Eric, Tommy, like these shots continue to come from outside the box. And I keep saying it's not sustainable. You can't do it. It's not sustainable. You can't do it. And yes, at some point, it's not going to be sustainable. But we've seen teams overperform their XG over the course of an entire season. It's hard to go beyond that, but St. Louis did it last year. They overperformed over the course of an entire season. It caught up to them at the end, but they still largely rode it. And then Austin the year before they did it. So I don't know. It's not unheard of to continue to do it. I would love to see more action in the box and some more staggered runs and whatnot, but
some movements, some crosses across the 6-yard line and tap ins at the back post. Other teams are doing that like crazy, and we're relying on our power from outside the box to make goals.
Yeah, and there are some times where we do send a pretty good cross in, and there's just nobody there, and I'm like, that's why Polito's pulled so far back in the midfield, and I'm like, where are you? Crash the box. There was a shot early in the game when Shallowy and Leibold had a pretty good combination, just a few minutes into the game on the left side, and Shallowy gets a pretty powerful shot to Fry. Fry blocks it, but it kind of spills out, and I'm like, if Polito's crashing the post right there, like a striker should do, that's a potential tap-in.
I will tell you something. On Johnny's shot, Daniel was right there for the rebound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's crashing immediately. He beats his defender. So if that doesn't go in, I'm pretty convinced Daniel puts it in. But why am I convinced? Because Shallowy has been very quiet this year, and it feels very weird.
Yeah, it is very weird.
And now he's hurt. Apparently, now he gets rolls his ankle and gets taken off the field. Man, rolling your ankle, sucks, bro.
Yeah, and so that was a whole thing because he had, who was it? It wasn't Gamar. It was their other center back, Jackson Reagan. He came in. I don't know if you've seen a replay of this. I think Chad Smith.
Oh yeah.
He has a little GIF of it on his Twitter account. Play for Nike.
Not great.
That could have been a red card.
Yeah, it should have been something.
He goes 2 feet. He leaves his feet. He hits Daniel Shallowy. I would say studs up.
And the ref is right there. It's not like the ref was out of position. He sees it.
That's a dangerous, dangerous play. And this was not a case of Daniel's I'm rolling around trying to get time. There's the new time-wasting rules. They don't want to do that. It was a 1-1 game right now. He's not trying to waste time. He was legitimately hurt. And then all of a sudden, the teams are over on the sidelines. They're getting water. Next thing I know, I look over and Yamar Gomez and Johnny Russell have a fistful of each other's jerseys. And Yamar's giant and Johnny is Scottish. And they're just in each other's faces screaming at each other. And I see Castellanos go running over from the bench as reinforcements because he's like, I'm gonna protect my guy if he needs it.
Hell yeah.
And apparently what happened was Yamar was tapping and moving and kicking Daniel's injured ankle. And
Just
Johnny was
not much to it, not like kicking, but yeah, he was touching it.
He was moving it. I haven't seen that part. Is what Johnny said. And Johnny goes, if someone's got an injured ankle, the worst thing you can do is move it.
Yeah.
So Johnny after the game, he flat out said, he goes, if my guy's injured, stay the fuck away from my guy.
Did he curse?
He did. He goes, he said, he was like, if someone's injured, honestly, and then he kind of paused. He's like, sorry for cursing, but stay the fuck away from him. And I was like, oh, Johnny, hell yeah.
That's why in the quotes on sportingkc.com, it said, if someone's injured, honestly, just stay ... away from him.
Yes.
Can't print that, I suppose. This is a family team.
This is a family show. But it was funny, and I asked Casty after. I was like, I saw you kind of go sprinting over there. You about ready to hop in and scrap? And he's like, you got to protect your guy if you need to. You got to be ready.
Absolutely, dude. Dude, get the fans out there. Let's all scrap. I'm in.
But that I mean, first off, hopefully Daniel's okay. We don't have an official prognosis yet. Peter said he thinks Daniel probably sprained his ankle, which if it's a high ankle sprain, that can be a minute.
Bullshit, dude. That sucks. But also, what has Daniel really provided right now? Like, what are we going to be missing? And who's going to step in for his place? Alenis?
Yes. So I do want to talk about that because that was the impetus for Alenis coming in. I will say in the locker room after the game, Daniel had a pretty significant limp still, and he had one of those scooter things where like you put your knee up on it and
scooter gang.
Yeah, you use your other foot to kind of like scoot along. So he might be out for a minute, but 72nd minute, Alenis Vargas checks in for an injured Daniel Shallowy. I mean, it was the 72nd minute where like all of the substitutions basically happened. Kyrie came in for Jake, Felipe came in for Memo, and Alenis came in for Daniel Shallowy. And at this point, Reed Baker-Whiting, the right back for, is he right back or left back? One of the fullbacks for the Seattle Sounders. He's the left back apparently. Was already on a yellow card. He had earned a yellow card in the 61st minute. And Peter told Alenis, as he's getting ready to check in, because we all know Alenis, how athletic and fast he is, he said, go get him a second yellow. Get that red card. Use your speed, put him in trouble. And it took all of 60 seconds from Alenis coming on the field to tap a ball around Baker-Whiting, just blow by him, and left Baker-Whiting no choice but to yank Alenis down, second yellow, red card. That shifted this entire game. Suddenly, 17 minutes, you're up again.
Dude, I mean, Vargas cooked that guy. The guy had to grab his shirt, and that when you're on a yellow, also, why is that? Why would you think to grab your shirt? You should have thought like, hey, I'm on a yellow. I need to change my play. And what I would usually do, I cannot do.
Yeah. Well, and this was my understanding. It was Reed Baker-Whiting's first MLS start, at least of this season.
Oh, thanks for coming out, Reed.
He's a young guy, and that in particular, we've talked a lot about.
Yeah, the butt jersey. Did he have that on it?
I don't think it was his MLS debut, but this season, I think it was his first game.
Got it.
But we've talked a lot about Peter and his tactical changes mid-game and strategy and whether they happen or not. But to identify, I mean, this is a basic thing, but to identify, hey, we have a fullback who's not the fastest on a yellow. I got a guy who's faster than anyone else, arguably, like he's one of like the top 5 fastest guys in the league, potentially.
That's good coaching right here, man.
Say, hey, go at him. We're going to send the ball through the right side to you because we're going to make sure that this happens. And to make that change and it works in less than a minute, that's awesome. And I've seen some Sounders fans be like, how did Brian Schmetzer not see this coming? Like, this is on him.
Maybe you should have subbed him out being on a yellow like that, you know?
Yeah. So Alenis gets that red card. Now there's 17 minutes plus what we knew there was going to be a lot of stoppage because of the Shallowy injury. Sporting had to, if they're going to turn this season around, capitalize on being at home, up a man for more than 20 minutes. Simply no option. And it was Alenis Vargas again, along with Kyrie Shelton, who played a gorgeous ball in from the right back spot.
Took his time, passed it right in there, man.
He drives forward. He sees Alenis, perfectly weighted ball. Now, Alenis wanted to cut back, and Seattle actually played this very well. If you look at their defensive shape, they had a wall of Seattle defenders that basically blocked any available passing lane to Polito because Alenis wanted to send it back to Alan Polito near the penalty spot. And they entirely shut out that passing lane. And so Alenis goes, okay, I guess I'll just shoot it right at Eminem and see what happens. And
that's his only option. And he megged the guy, man. Right between his damn legs.
I mean, this is a tough angle. And so I guess credit to Alenis.
That's not a shot you make.
No. Credit to him, one, for even getting it on frame because he's a yard and a half off the end line. So he puts it in at an angle that even gives it a chance to score. It
was coming down to crunch time. It was the game was wrapping up, the almost stoppage time, and we needed something. It was like, man, you're really going to draw with these guys when you're up a man. Like, let's get it going. And Vargas, man, being God, his speed is something else, right? And did it mean more to anyone other than him as he ran to the substitutes and Kyrie got in his face looking so happy for Vargas? This is a young kid, dude, with a promising future. And I love to see Kyrie getting his second assist on the year. Do the math. I think the only person with more than 2 assists is Memo Rodriguez with like 4.
Yeah. Kyrie's,
who had an excellent game, by the way. Memo continues to impress me.
Memo's good. But, I mean, it was Aledis who ultimately scored the go-ahead win or go-ahead goal. Ultimately was the winning goal. There was 7 minutes of stoppage time. Sporting saw it out. There were some nervy set pieces, but they saw it out. They ended up winning. But I think Aledis Vargas, Holiday Distillery, toast to the match because he scores the game-winning goal. He comes on and instantly earns that red card. It's his second goal of the year, but I mean, the kid was just absolutely beaming after the game. So, in my view, Aledis Vargas, Holiday Distillery, toast the match. Wouldn't have won the game without you. Congratulations to you, my friend.
20 years old, Honduras national. So this is man, I'm just real excited for him. Do you know Seattle has the third most corner kicks in MLS? And they only had 1 on the night last night to our 9.
Yeah.
And their 1 came towards the end of the game.
Yeah. I mean, outside of that lapse early in the game, and Peter thought there were some referee things leading up to that. Whatever. I think I put more of the blame on Leibold than the referees there. But outside of that one play, defensively, Sporting played pretty well last night, and their XG was low. They're still not getting enough runners into the box for my liking. Polito disappears for large swaths of the game where you forget he's on the field at this point, which is not great from a $4 million a year DP player. But they found a way to win. They snapped a 10-game winless streak, and sometimes you need a little bit of luck to snap a winless streak, and now they travel to LA to play the Galaxy this weekend, who are a very good team.
Yeah.
And they've had some success there in the past, and they've gone to Dignity Health Sports Park and earned some points against some pretty good teams. So this is a chance to build on this win and hope that they can carry it over week. But
yeah. Let me pop in with a little chip stats here. Chipper stats. Chipalytics. Dude, Chip tells me SKC's halfway through the season now. Technically we're at that halfway point with just 14 points. But with the win last night, we hop up to 12th in the West. But Dallas and San Jose, they're 13th and 14th respectively, have 1 game on us. The magic number to watch is 44 points, which is what we had last year as the minimum number of points, which got us into the postseason. For that to happen, we would need to net 1.76 points per game for the rest of the season to make it there. And so far this season, the highest point per game in a 5-game stretch we have had was 1.6 points per game. And that was at the end of March after the last win against Toronto. So we have not had 1.76 points per game yet in a 5-game stretch. Doesn't mean it's impossible. We're not out of this damn thing, but it's going to take some work, man. And also, SKC is still reigning as the team with the most goals allowed per game at home. It is 2.11 goals allowed per game at home. So, not a great title to have. You don't want to hold that you're not good at home.
No, not at all. It's not great at all. If you, at this point, if we need to average about 1.7 points per game to get into the playoffs, then you can kind of continue to build off of the formula of win at home, draw on the road. That only works if you win at home. The more we drop points at home, I mean, at this point right now on the season, we have 4 losses at home. You have to win your home games. You cannot waste your opportunities to come away with 3 points at Children's Mercy Park. So win those games at home, draw on the road, maybe steal one on the road here and there to give you a little bit of extra breathing room, and you can fight your way back up into this thing. I mean, currently, we are 7 points out of a playoff spot, but the team that is in that seventh spot, Portland, has played one more game than Sporting KC. So we, as you mentioned, Dallas and San Jose have games in hand on us. We have a game in hand on Portland.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible, but it's going to take a lot.
Take some work. One other thing, with Vargas's goal last night, he's first on the team in goals per 90 minutes played at 0.85 goals per 90 minutes. Wait till you hear this when you get to starters on this list. Number 2, Marinos Chinese at 0.55 per 90. Number 3, Willie Agata.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until number 4 you get into a starting player with Johnny Russell, who's at 0.32 goals per 90 minutes. Does that warrant any kind of conversation of maybe starting some of these younger guys because they're making the most out of their opportunities?
I mean, that's kind of what Peter was looking at over the last few weeks is, hey, the starters weren't getting it done, so we benched 3 of them, and it credit him for trying something. It didn't work all that well, but maybe with Daniel going down now, you're probably going to see a lot more of Alenis in the starting lineup over the next handful of weeks. Maybe Alenis in there in combination with Johnny and either Polito or Agata. Maybe you just got to find the right combination to find some success. The thing that Alenis needs to work on, and I was talking about this with somebody in the press box the other night, is he has so much skill and energy that he almost needs to rev himself down a little bit at some times, especially if he's starting, so he doesn't burn through all of his energy in 55 or 60 minutes of game time. Learn when to pick and choose your spots. And that's something that Johnny said he's had to learn over the years is when am I going to conserve my energy and realize, okay, if I'm not going to get there now, I'm not going to go 100% full throttle in this very moment versus now I can go put on the afterburners. That's something I think that Alenis, he's only 20, still has. Yeah. You just need game experience to learn that.
And he'll get it. Final note here on all this. It's kind of a fun note here. You'll like this. The player with the highest goal per 90 in MLS is Ben Bender from Charlotte.
Ben Bender.
He's played 16 minutes with 1 goal, so he's at 5.63 goals per 90. The man is a legend. Apparently his goal per 90 is more than 5 times that of Leo Messi. So
amazing. Of course. Ben Bender, the GOAT.
Bender. That's like me being Dan Danielson.
Daniel Danielson.
You're I don't know what we would do for yours. Jimmy Smith. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Jimison. What's a good last name with Jim in it?
James Jameson.
James Jameson. There it is. Because you are a James. We forget that. How little we forget.
Yes, I am. But it was a fun night. Now we're going to. I can't sit here and say I'm confident against the Galaxy.
Hell no.
Shame on you. But hey, it's good to have a winning feeling.
Listen, we're back, baby. Sporting turnaround 2.0. I don't know.
This is the start, hopefully, of something, and there's a long way to go. And Johnny said before the game and their pregame, he goes, "Hey, last year at this point, it was a 10-game winless streak and beating Seattle that turned things around. We got a 10-game winless streak. We're playing Seattle. Let's do it." So they were aware. And it was a 2-1 win last year. It was a 2-1 win this year. So serendipity, I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Look, you did say this is the start of something good, and I think we should probably put a rendition together. If you sing the Gabriella portion, I can sing the Troy portion from High School Musical. This is the start of something new. You got it. You'll get it.
I have a confession for you.
What?
I've never seen any High School Musical movie.
That's fine. Good for you. That means you're cool. That means you're not me. What do you? Don't act like you should be upset. That's a badge of honor.
The only thing I know about him is the "We're All in This Together" song, but I don't.
Don't make me start the dance.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm not feeling great about traveling to the Galaxy. They beat FC Dallas 3-1. Ricky Puig is just a hell of a midfielder. I am terrified of trying to figure out how to stop him in the midfield. I would love to have Remy Voltaire back, who could just shadow him throughout the game. We'll see what happens. Voltaire was questionable for this week, didn't end up playing, but maybe by next week he'll be available. So we shall see.
this game just feels weird, man. I'm trying to just feel like I want to put it in the past. We got the win. That's great. It was pretty ugly. Stephen Fry probably should have saved both goals.
Probably.
But we got it, dude, and we got to just keep going.
Sounders fans are not happy with Stephen Fry. Like I mean, he's a club legend. Like he's
that the bleach, like that, those chemicals can seep into your brain and ruin your keeper judgment.
Yeah, but I've seen multiple say it's time to bench Stephen Fry, leave him in Team City. So it's
wow.
Yeah,
that is interesting. What time's this game Saturday? 9:30.
It's a West Coast game, so it's probably 9:30.
It is 9:30.
Yeah.
Dig it. That's awesome.
So get the coffee, get the energy drinks. Before we log off for the week, I did just want to make mention, you probably didn't watch any of it because you were being Mr. Theater Man, but the U.S. men's national team played Columbus. We got to talk about this? Colombia in a friendly, and it started off looking pretty interesting because
wasn't too friendly.
It was not too friendly. But if you look at the lineup, there's a lot of excitement about the lineup that the U.S. put out because for the first time in team history, all 11 starters for the U.S. men's national team played for clubs in the top 5 European leagues at the time of the match.
That's pretty neat.
You're thinking, okay, this is, we've been talking about this generation of prospects, this 2026 World Cup. Like, this is the start of it. We're testing ourselves against a good South American team. We got Copa America coming up here. And then Colombia goes out and beats us 5-1. It was upsetting.
In a friendly, though, you can try new things. You can try new tactics. Like, I don't think they worried too much about getting beat. Like, even when they were down, by a goal or something, they probably still were like, okay, let's try this, let's try that. You just try to see what works and what you got. But it did not work. They need to go back to the drawing table here because this was bad.
Yeah, Greg Berhalter was not happy. Of course, people are already calling Sugar fired again. But Greg Berhalter said that the team not only disrespected the opponent, but they disrespected the game of soccer, which how they approached the game tonight.
Right, because I know that if I'm in front of net and I have an open goal, I should probably not shoot it. What are you talking about, bro? But you want to be handed a game like a
no, he's not talking about. He didn't say Colombia was he said the U.S. disrespected Colombia and disrespected the game of soccer with the type of performance they put out there tonight.
Gotcha. I thought he was like upset about running up the score.
No,
because you know how people get like that.
Yeah.
It's like, don't be.
No, he didn't give a shit about that. He was saying that like we were so bad that we not only disrespected Colombia with how lackluster we were, but we disrespected the game with not showing up.
I gotcha.
So, but fans are already calling for Greg to be fired.
Let's hold off on that. Okay, it's just freaking friendly. They got another one coming up here this week, right?
Do they have another one coming up this week? I know that there's
June 12th. They play Brazil. That should be a blast.
They got another. Okay, yeah. There's a lot going on because there's the Olympic team, which is different than the senior team, and one's getting ready for the Olympics, one's getting ready for Copa America. So, good news is Brazil doesn't have a history of being a great soccer nation. So
yeah, never heard of them really. I think it's a very small nation, religious. I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it's not 5-1. That was the first time since the 2009 Gold Cup against Mexico. This is according to Paul Carr. First time since the 2009 Gold Cup, I believe it was the final against Mexico, that the U.S. has let up 5 goals in a competition, and only the second time since the 1990 World Cup against Czechoslovakia they've allowed 5 goals in a single game. So
that's nice.
Third time in 34 years, why not? So
listen, man, I don't know what to say. I mean, U.S. they're hot and cold. I can't imagine they'll do well against Brazil. I can't imagine we'll do well against the Galaxy this weekend. I'm not optimistic about much these days when it comes to soccer in this place, except for the women's team. Join us currently on Wednesday. We'll talk to you then.
Current are crushing it, but hey. At least Sporting got a win. We had a victory pod. We're hopefully starting to turn the ship around, get back on track, and we'll see what happens. We'll be here next week after the Galaxy game. Hopefully, steal on one there, and we'll see what happens.
I want to give a shout to people for showing up to this game. Man, they didn't have to. They could have not come. Maybe a lot of people sold their tickets too. I don't know, but
they showed up.
You said it was packed, and that there's a difference between a supporter and a fan.
Mm-hmm.
A fan, they come and go, man.
Yeah.
But a supporter ain't going. Even when times are rough, they're hanging out. They're sticking through it.
Well, I think they probably saw that there was the, unbeatable deal of the match, which was $5 Dasani water bottles. And so
What a deal.
I have to show up to take advantage of this just damn bargain that Sporting is putting out there.
Let me tell you something. You know you can bring refillable water bottles into KC Current?
Yep, you can.
Can't do that at Sporting, can you?
No. So
What is this, Nazi Germany? Now, why can't you do that? Why can't you just bring in water?
I don't know if they're worried about sneaking in alcohol or throwing something or what, but yeah, it's not great. So
I mean, it's I don't know, man. How are we not so far in the future where it's okay to bring in a refillable water bottle? But no, let me go buy your plastic Dasani water bottles. Sounds great.
$5 at most is what it should be just on a regular game at a sports event. But to have $5 be like, here's our special deal of the day, I was like, somebody did not think this one through.
Felt like a pretty big slap in the face. Yeah.
Didn't go well. But
It was
anyway,
hot too, wasn't it? Wasn't it pretty warm?
yeah, I mean, it was humid. It was muggy.
Well, but you can't bring in water, and yes, Nick, they are normally more than $5. That $5 promotion was a deal. It was a promotion.
Yeah. Our producer, Nick, did show up to the game, so I think we have to have him come to all the games from now on.
I made a joke. He said he was going to a game. He hasn't been to one in a long time. And I said, would you lose a bet? Like, who's making you go? Who broke into your car and left tickets? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they win, and I'm like, you keep going to that game, baby.
Yep. That's how it works. Well, thank y'all so much for listening. We'll be back next week, hopefully after a win in LA. But make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and review. We appreciate it. We'll read it here on air. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03. You can send us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com, or you can check us out on YouTube in the KC Sports Network app, KCSN Soccer on YouTube. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Shout out to the Cauldron for an awesome Pride tifo. Looked great. Really good job to everybody involved there. But until next time, he's Dan. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
Because he's Stephen Fry. Yes, he's the Stephen Fry.